Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Insidecoop. I'm Coop. This is Jackson. So today I want to talk about Hollywood and Christian slash Catholic TV shows or films that have come out in the past 25 years or so. How they have showed a positive, negative light against the Catholic or Christian faith. But also share how some of them are powerful, and then bring in my ideas of how we can make it a little better, or how the Christian and Catholic church can team up with Hollywood to kind of make more of these positive movies. So I want to start with the negative side, and let's start with the most recent. And just because I say they are negative doesn't mean the film is bad at all. In fact, most of the movies and shows I will be talking about are phenomenal, and you should give them a watch. I'm just going to share how they are positive or negative towards the Christian or Catholic belief. And to start, I actually grew up Catholic. I went to 14 years of Catholic school. My high school was actually an all-guy Jesuit high school. Jesuits are a form of Catholic priests, but we'll get into that. But the first movie I want to talk about is Spotlight. Now, Spotlight, if you don't know, is about how a couple journalists got together to track down how a lot of the victims of sexual abuse with the Catholic priests. And they were the ones who brought out how the priests were never charged, nothing ever happened to them, and that the Catholic Church actually moved these priests around to kind of protect the church, to not show any negative light upon the church, because in my opinion I feel like there's been a decline in attendance, or just with how people believe. Of course people believe, but do they really, or are they just going through the motions? Well, we'll get through that. So Spotlight's definitely shows a negative light on the Catholic Church, showing how you have these men who are supposed to be leaders of the religion, of the church, prey upon these small boys for sexual acts, and it's terrible. I mean, Mark Ruffalo is in it; he does a phenomenal job. Definitely makes you a little sick afterwards about the Catholic faith, how they could do this. A religion about love and treating others with respect, and then it just goes behind and doesn't do that, and then hides one of its individuals. So there's that. Another negative one would definitely be Dogma. I love the movie Dogma. It's hilarious, but it definitely doesn't do any justice for the Catholic faith. But it is a powerful movie where it does have you question. And any movie that has you question and even has you look up stuff and do a little research is always positive in my aspect. I mean, because if you're looking stuff up, it means you're interested. It means you have questions that you want to know answers to. And Dogma is just about tearing apart some of the Catholic beliefs and poking fun at it, and then putting its own spin to it. So if you don't know Dogma, it's about how two angels that were excommunicated from heaven, trying to get back into heaven by crossing through this church doorway, and it's about the great grandniece of Christ that has to stop her, because, I mean, Mary Magdalene was a virgin when she had Jesus, but she also had a husband named Joseph, and the movie just went on about how they got it on a couple times, and Jesus had brothers and sisters. There's no evidence to that in history, but that's what the movie went with. So once again, not great, shows great light towards Catholic faith, but definitely brings up some questions. Another movie that doesn't show great light on Christianity or Catholic faith, but allows you to create questions or come up with questions and do some research, are Dan Brown books and movies with the Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons. So Da Vinci Code, I mean, having like maybe that question that what if Jesus did marry Mary Magdalene and they did have a child? What if? So as a Catholic, we know Mary Magdalene was just a prostitute that Jesus saved, and then she just followed him around. That's what we know. So it's definitely interesting. Definitely allows you to raise those questions, do some hardcore research, going off of what the movie tells you, and then looking behind it. Like, could that be true? Could that be plausible? But also shows how like Catholics hid a lot of stuff and did some shady things in the early days by excommunicating or executing people, especially with angels and demons, with the whole Illuminati thing and Galileo, and how the conciliary of the Pope was evil and actually murdered him to take so that he could take the throne of St. Peter. So yeah, it doesn't show a lot of good light to the Catholic faith, but it does show some interesting things, like how in Angels and Demons, the Vatican has a vault of information. Why do they have a vault guarded by the Swiss Guard of information? What are they hiding? I don't like that they have this vault. Why aren't they telling us everything? I would like to know everything. For instance, I believe one of the secrets of the three children of Fatima are in that vault. If you don't know what that is, I'll bring that up later. But yeah, it's just shady that the Vatican has a vault of information that they're just not telling people. Um, so that's a negative one. But I mean, they're powerful because they allow you to think. Let's check my notes. A negative show that has come out recently, Keepers on Netflix. If you haven't watched it, thriller, kind of dark, and it hit home for me a little bit. Being from Baltimore, having gone to Catholic school, this show takes place back in the 70s. It's a true story, early 70s, about this all-girl Catholic school called Keo. It's about how a nun confronted a priest about the shady things he was doing. That nun went missing, and then they found that nun dead. And it's all about what was the priest doing, why wasn't he caught, why did the police have all this information and didn't do anything, why was he so protected. So it definitely shades a lot of negative light on the Catholic Church because they knew what this one priest was doing the whole time and they did nothing about it. They actually removed this priest from several locations because he had a history of doing this act over and over and over again. He's pretty much just a monster. I believe he was Father Maxey. I don't want to give anything away because it's a great show, but and then it also shows how he had connections with the Baltimore police and how they kind of protected him. So it doesn't show a good light on Baltimore either. But what really hit home was the fact when I started to watch the show, my mother walked in and her face went pale because she grew up in Baltimore. She grew up Catholic. She went to Keogh High School in the early 70s. So when she noticed a lot of her old classmates and hear the stories, she was connecting a lot of dots and like, wow, the stories were true. So that kind of hit home for me, knowing that, wow, this is real. But definitely doesn't show anything positive towards the Catholic faith at all. It just shows how this evil man who's supposed to be a leader in the church did so many heinous and evil things, and then he was protected until the day he died. Nothing ever happened to him, so that's never good. But then let's talk about the movies that have been positive. Let's start with late 90s with Prince of Egypt. If you haven't seen it, awesome animation about the story of Moses, leading the Jewish people out of oppression of Egypt and trying to make their way towards Israel. Awesome music, great voice actors with Val Kilmer, Sandra Bullock. It just allows you to connect to the story a little bit more. Because, I mean, we know the stories, we hear them all the time, we've read them, but to hear it, to see it and hear it and, like, get all the action of it, it tells a little bit better of a story. So that one I would put on the positive side because it's a great story. It's about a man overcoming everything and leading an oppressed people to freedom. And he parts the sea. He parts the Red Sea. Like, How awesome is that? So that affirms some beliefs like, oh wow, okay, if this happened, maybe other things happen. And then we go up to, I mean, there's the Nativity story. I bet a lot of you haven't watched that. It's okay. But then Passion of the Christ, where Mel Gibson just knocks it out of the park. Because we all know the story, we all know Easter and why we have it. Um, I mean, there's passion plays if you go to church and your church does passion plays. There's that too. But this story of just his seeing his face and the look on his face when everything was going on, hearing his cries, seeing the whip go into his flesh and rip it out, adds a whole other element of to it. Just it makes you cry. Like it's an extremely sad and horrible torture, and then all day until his death. It's completely sad, but we forget how sad that is. And when you watch it, it hits you hard. So I'm gonna put that in a positive for the Catholic faith because it just affirms everything. It just makes you feel for him so much, and just makes you want to be like, he did this for me, so I need to do something good. And then recently we have the two popes and the Messiah. I'm going to start with the Messiah. If you haven't watched it, it's incredible. I finished it in a day. It's just all about what if the second coming, or I think for the Muslim faith, the first coming, appeared in today's world. Like, would you believe him? Would you recognize it? If someone told you, would you need to go see it or need to see a miracle, or would you just know? And then it's also interesting when, like, so of course he's probably going to be Arab looking. So if you hear on television an Arab man leading 1,500 other Arabs from Damascus to Israel, you're going to be like, raise some questions. You're like, what's this dude's intentions? Because we live in a skeptical world. So when something like that happens, we want to feel safe. We don't want to know this man who's leading all these people means us harm. But it's just very interesting throughout the show, seeing what happens and seeing how some people believe and then some people become more skeptical, kind of create your own questions on what would I do in this situation. So definitely a positive, I believe, for Christianity and Catholic faith, because seeing it and then reaffirms like, wow, maybe I need to go back to church. I mean, for someone like me who went every day for 18 years and then stopped, it's just like, maybe I want to go back. Like, having all these good feelings come up, like seeing, like, for instance, he did a miracle, so seeing that, it's like, wow. Of course, you have skeptics being like, oh, he's just an illusionist, it's all a trick. I mean, believe what you want, but I'm on the positive side. Which brings me to two popes. So, Anthony Hopkins, Jonathan Pryce. I mean, those two actors alone should give you the push to watch the movie. Anthony Hopkins plays Pope Benedict XVI. Old German, grew up was in the Nazi time, so definitely has that German conservative, hard Catholic views. While you have Pope Francis, who is from Argentina, living in the slums, the drug lords, the dictators, comes from a life of poverty. I mean, he was a Jesuit priest, and Jesuit priests live a life of total poverty. So he was definitely able to relate with majority of the world that way. Just be able to relate to the common man, and the whole movie is just about the relationship and how they started off so rocky because they have such hard different beliefs, but then after sitting down with one another and understanding why they have these beliefs, it builds their friendship more, and which overcomingly allows for Pope Benedict XVI to be like, I'm stepping down as Pope and I want you to take my place. Granted, that can't happen, there needs to be a vote, but the fact that Pope Benedict XVI knew that he wasn't fit to lead Catholics anymore, and that he needed somebody like Pope Francis with his liberal beliefs, civil rights beliefs. I mean, he needed that for the church now because I feel like it's on the decline, and we need someone like that to bring people in. I mean, Pope Francis is a badass. He's one of the only popes to come out and openly accept gay people, say, God made him that way, God loves him, I love him. I mean, you can't help but smile at that answer. I mean, it's perfect. So, definitely, like, hearing how Pope Francis talks and what he believes in definitely makes me want to kind of go back, like I said, go back to church and hear from the priest and feel that if you had that powerful, like, feeling that when watching the movie. And then one of my favorite positive movies towards the Catholic or Christianity would be Boondock Saints. I mean, clearly I think one of the best cult movies ever. It's about two Irish brothers living in South Boston who get a sign from God that they need to destroy all which is evil so that the good may flourish. So to them, that means they need to go and kill the entire mob, Russian mob, Italian mob, any mobster in Boston, they were killing. So I mean that's cool. Like being a Catholic, that's awesome. Like God wants assassins that are like Catholic brothers, yeah. And I'm one of four boys, so yeah, I love that idea. Me and my brothers are assassins for God. Yeah, I'll go kill a couple mobsters. Granted, I'm not gonna go out and start doing that, but it allows you to have that fantasy a little bit. So I mean, I love that movie for that aspect. I mean, being a Catholic, having brothers, who doesn't like action, comedy, and then it also involves hardcore Catholics who like to kill people. So if you haven't seen Boondock Saints, that's the number one movie I would recommend you watch first, and then you watch all the other ones I mentioned because Boondock Saints, it's awesome. I mean, before executing guys, they say a prayer like, "I want to send you to the boatman." Boom, you're dead. Pennies in your eyes. Pay the boatman. And you don't feel bad about it because you know they're mobsters. They're bad guys. And then, so that's positives. So one negatives, positives. And now, future. So I think after having two popes and after the Messiah, we need more shows and more movies like this to get more people like back in the church, back to those hardcore like believers, because I feel like people are lost in their phones now, and God gets forgotten about, church gets forgotten about, or they just don't care. I mean, there's so much other going on that it just gets filtered out. I mean, just imagine a current day movie about St. Patrick. I mean, one of the most celebrated holidays in this country, St. Patrick. Everybody knows St. Patrick, but not many people know of St. Patrick. Like, I bet a lot of people don't know that he's not from Ireland. He was actually kidnapped into slavery and then sold in Ireland. His real name's not Patrick. He took upon the name Patrick when he became a priest, and he expelled all snakes out of Ireland because snakes are fucking evil. They are the worst. You can't. There's not one nice snake. They all want to kill you. Every one of them. They're the devil, right, Jackson? Yeah, we don't like snakes. So yeah, and imagine it filmed by Martin Scorsese, starring Daniel Day-Lewis as St. Patrick. Like, do you need anything else? Do you need anything else? They did a phenomenal job together in Gangs of New York. And I think Scorsese could direct the fuck out of a Saints movie, especially St. Patrick, someone who's so beloved. And if you get a badass like Daniel Day-Lewis, hell yeah, one of the most decorated Oscar winners of our time. Yes, please. So that's one idea, and then you have Our Lady of Fatima, who tells the three children the secrets, that the things in order that need to happen for the end of the world. And if you don't know that, look up Our Lady of Fatima, because it's a very, very interesting story. And knowing that the Pope has the third answer, why don't we know? So that's just my outlook. I'm going to try and post an episode a day, all ranging stuff. Tomorrow, I want to try and talk about the Red Sea Diving Resort starring Chris Evans, and then bridge that with 13 Hours with John Krasinski. Once again, this is the Inside Coop. I'm Coop. This is Jackson, and we'll see you tomorrow.